So you are explaining what happens to work performance data. Please. Shaisa, we can't hear you. If you can unmute your mic, probably we can hear you. Okay. So as soon as you can speak, please do. Faisal Abbas, please tell me what happens to work performance data.
Sir, all work performance data, sir, after passing through these control processes, will become work performance information, sir. And if there is any change, that will go to through perform indicated control change, sir. And all other will be that all information will be passed through the process of monitor and control project work, sir.
Okay, and okay.
And the other way, sir, I can start from the beginning, so that can help me out to come to your question answer also.
Okay.
Sir, after the project management plan, sir, we prepared after getting all the plans, all the 24 processes, and having 10 management plans with me, and then 3 baselines. They all together and they form the project management plan. And direct and manage control works. This all what will be going to in execution in this direct and manage project work. And whatsoever it will be done during execution phase, sir,
we lost your sound. Maybe it is network at my end or your end, I don't know. Lost your sound. Okay. Ji Faisal.
Sir, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Yeah, we missed out a bit. जी
हेलो
जी, अब सिर्फ आपकी आवाज आ रही है, बाकी कुछ नजर नहीं आ रहा. लेट गिव इट थोड़ा सा टाइम दीजिए, ठीक हो जाएगा. Can you hear me, Faisal?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now.
Okay. Okay, please keep explaining.
Okay, sir. May I repeat again, sir?
Keep explaining what you were saying. You were explaining about the
sir,
direct and managed project.
Yeah, yes, sir. I was explaining that how the project management plan will make that after joining all 10 management plans and with the baselines, we get the project management plan, and that goes in execution in the direct to manage work, and from where we actually generate the performance data. That
Wonderful.
work performance data, after passing through all the controls in the monitoring and control process, respective control become one performance information, and
Mm-hmm.
it will be overall controlled in the monitoring and control project work, sir.
Right. And
And
what
after that control, we will get the deliverable also,
what
and
work performance report?
the work performance information, sir.
No, no. What will happen to work performance information?
The work performance reports, sir, that performance information after passing from the monitor control project also.
Exactly, exactly. That's it. Wonderful, Faisal. You have summarized it in very nice way. I would like someone else to take charge also. So who else wants to explain it? Anyone, please raise hand. I'll ask the question. Imran, do you want to answer? Ji, Mohammad Imran. You see, I want each one of you to be able to explain the whole story without any difficulty. You must understand it clearly and fully. Ji, Shahid Sahab. Shahid Sahab, we are unable to listen to you. Your mic is mute on your side. If you can somehow fix it and talk, then we'll be able to listen. Ji, Shahid Sahab. Something is a problem. We can't. I'm keeping your mic open. Whenever you can speak, please do speak. Meanwhile, let me talk to Asim. Hafiz Muhammad Asim. Are you there and can you speak? Asim? Ji, Asim. Okay. We can't hear Shahid Iqbal. Who else? Shahryar Bhatti. Can you speak? Shahid Sahab, I can see your other connection. Can you speak from there? Shahid Iqbal Sahab. This is amazing that I can't communicate with anyone. Are you able to listen to me? Can you hear me? Ji Faisal? Faisal, I know you can
Yep.
listen, you can hear me, but why others are not able to answer to me? Aliza, can you listen to me? Yeah. And Azim? Azim Saab? Okay. Sharyar Bhatti, please, I can't hear you. Please unmute your mic from your side and speak.
So can you able? Hello?
जी जी बिल्कुल आवाज आ रही है आपकी.
Yes, sir. Sir, I will talk through, knowledge perspective,
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge group.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, like we have 5 kinds of, like initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first, we have developed project charter and the order. So based on that, the thing is, so there are 10 kinds of plans will be consolidated into a plan, which is develop project management plan. In
Mm-hmm.
addition to this, we have project objective, which includes cost that will also go to develop.
Okay.
So based on, like the execution happen.
Mm-hmm.
So project execute the things based on the management plan. Similarly, the other project under executing, like quality, which will for the plan or not. And similarly, other supporting just grow resources
Mm-hmm.
will be parallel. Manage communication, implement risk. So the output of the executing responses. The process group will be what you call it, like work performance data,
Mm-hmm.
which will go into the monitoring and controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And like this information will be passed to the mentioned process groups like validate scope, control schedule, control cost, control quality,
Mm-hmm.
resources, monitor communication, and risk.
Right.
So whatever the output of the executing process group in the form of the work performance data, it will be validated in the validate scope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is so this validation is basically as per the requirement, the things are executed properly or not.
Right.
In addition to this, also there will be a project deliver,
Mm-hmm.
which will be the output of direct and managed project work, which will again go to monitoring and controlling, and it will be validated. So each process groups like validate scope, control schedule. After processing the work performance data, it will
Mm-hmm.
generate the work performance information,
Right.
which will eventually again it will go to monitor and control project.
Right.
So once this will happen, actually, if the tasks are completed, all this information will go to the next phase,
Mm-hmm.
to the next process group, which is closing.
Mm-hmm.
And basically in the closing, like all the things will be validated, like it is closed as per the requirement.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Right.
Yeah.
Shahid Saab, can you speak now? Shahid Saab, Sayyid Mohammed Shahid. There is a problem with the communication with Shahid. Anyways, let me ask Alize. Alize, you were not there yesterday and day before? I can't listen to you. Can you please speak up? Aliza Sana. Is it the problem at my end or what? Can you all hear me? Aliza, can you hear me? Raise your hand. Okay, you can hear me. Why can't you speak, Aliza? Your voice is not here. Can't hear you. Shai Sab, same is the problem with you. We can't hear you. Please speak up. Unmute your mic and speak up. Okay. Okay, let me revise this, and I'm really very happy that most of you who have explained, they explained it quite well, with a little bit of tweaking. This is exactly what happens here. I will explain this thing in one go. In initiation, we have the developed project charter developed by the project sponsor and given to the project manager, and project manager assume the responsibility, and he also identifies the various stakeholders, creates the stakeholder register, then he moves on to the planning. In planning, the main plan, the parent plan is the project management plan, which includes the plans of all other 9 knowledge areas, and project management plan gives the guideline to other knowledge areas how to start their work, and then he waits for all the management plans to submit their management plans. Like Scope has two management plans, scope management plan and requirement management plan. then schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, communication management plan, risk management plan, procurement management plan, and stakeholder management plan. There are 10 management plans and 3 baselines. These are scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline. These all things put together forms the project management plan. In addition to that, if anything is created in planning, that would be put into another archive which is called project documents. Actually, between the management plan and the baseline, there are a lot many things which are created, a lot many documents are created. All those documents are interim documents, they are not the final baseline. So all what is created in between will also form part of the project documents. They will not be called the project management plan. The baselines are the only executable things which add up to the project management plan, because project management plan develop project management plan takes on the responsibility of executing it through direct and managed project work. So this all happens in planning, and then we go to execution. In execution, as I said, direct and managed project work is going to execute the project, and two things will come out. One is the work performance data, and other is the deliverable. As I explained, answered a question yesterday, why both of these things are coming out, because naturally when you do something, something will be produced, no matter it is right or wrong, but the deliverable will come out. So, and some reports on whatever is happening is coming out, that is the work performance data, but that are unauthenticated report, they have to be analyzed. In addition to that, in execution, there are other things going on, like you see, uh, the manage project knowledge process is uh, creating a knowledge base for all what is being learned, that is being stored there throughout the life of the project. It is managing all the information which is happening uh, within the project. Manage quality process is responsible for looking at the processes while they are happening and continuously improving them. This is the only process which interacts with the live processes. Then we have got resource management. In this, we have got the availability of the resources is made there. All the resources which are acquired just in time. When they are required, they must be made available. Is the responsibility of resource management, and the human resource out of that is to be trained, developed, or managed. So this all these resources, whether human or inhuman, are all supposed to be available just in time when that activity starts. Managed communication will ensure that the communications planned do occur. Then risk management will, the responses which have been created, they are implemented here. Conduct procurements actually awards the contracts in this process to the contractors, and then the work of execution is finished as far as the procurement is concerned, because contract has been signed and this contract will be executed while we are in monitoring and control and we are controlling the procurement. Stakeholder engagement is just like communication. We manage the stakeholder engagement, ensure that all stakeholder engagements are properly being done. While we are in monitoring and control, all the monitors and controls in this are going to receive the work performance data. Work performance data will be analyzed by each control and monitor from all knowledge areas, and that would be analyzed, and analysis result is called work performance information, and this work performance information will be submitted to monitor and control project work, which will further elaborate and consolidate it into the work performance report, later sharing it with many processes like managed team, like integrated change control, like risk, monitor risk, and so on and so forth. So the number of places this report goes. Then we have the deliverable we also received here from execution. The deliverable goes through two processes here. First of all, it goes through the quality control, from which it is verified, and a verified deliverable is then sent to validate scope. The second inspection happens in the validate scope, and once the validate scope is done, that means the user acceptance has been done, and that now the deliverable is in the form of the accepted deliverable. This is sent to close project, and all the deliverable, all the knowledge base, and all the documentation is sent to close project, which do the paper audit of everything. and ensures that everything is complete, all the work has been done, all deliverables have been provided, and there is nothing outstanding. All the procurement contracts have been closed down. Once everything is closed down, it hands over the deliverable to the customer, and all the documentation is to be submitted back to the organizational process assets, and people are laid off. So that's how the project comes to a close. So this was a quick summary on the table we studied yesterday, and as I said, I'm happy that most of you have captured the spirit of it, and that is important. If you understand this story, which I just told you in few words, you understand project management. Any of the knowledge areas we will study, it will be much easier for you to capture that. So with this, we move on to the next step, and that is to see the interaction of the process groups. To see the interaction of the process groups, let me get that diagram in front of you first. This is the diagram. I know you won't be able to see the bottom line because that I could not fix. But anyways, if you have the presentation in front of you, which I had sent you yesterday, then probably you have already seen it. So what happens here? This is something interesting. Now we are dealing with the initiation process group, the planning process group, the executing process group, monitoring and control process group, and the closing process group, which is not visible. It's right in the bottom there. This one is the closing process group. So we are not going into the detail of the processes included in each one of these process groups. We are only going to talk about the interaction of these process groups. So we'll talk later about internal processes, but right now let's consider each process group as a black box. We don't know what is inside, and we just know what is coming out and what is getting inside. So let's start from the beginning. How does the whole story start? When the project initiator or project sponsor has been assigned the job to get the project started. Now, naturally, the business analysis might have been done, business need, business case, all things might have been done. Business analyst must have played his role, and as a result, he receives some business documents and some agreements, based on which this project is to be initiated. The business documents include two types of documents. One is the business case. Business case is created by the business analyst based on the business need. He realized, he looked at certain internal or external factors, and he saw an opportunity or a problem. He turned into opportunity, and based on that business need, he created some kind of feasibility, and if it was feasible, he created the business case. Not only that, as we said, there has to be another thing included with the business document, that in addition to the business case, he also creates a benefit management plan. You see, I have already described to you that a project, though is responsible for the whole strategy and everything, project manager designs the project for long-term application, but uh, he is only responsible for delivering that deliverable. How the deliverable yields the benefit is someone else's business, but how those benefits will be ultimately realized will be documented in this document, which is called benefit management plan. How the benefits will be managed in long run, and who will be responsible for those. So this benefit management plan and the business case, these are the two things included in the business documents. And agreements could be, maybe the project you are doing is basically contracted to your company, so there might be a contract behind it, or maybe this work we are doing for your own organization is to fulfill the need of another department of your organization, and you might have an agreement with them or a MOU signed with them, or some inter-office kind of a communication or understanding is there. So whatever kind of agreement, that agreement forms the basis for initiating the project. So far, I have described the project initiator has been inherited with these two documents. He did not create. Project sponsor does not create the business documents or the agreement. He has been given these two things. Business documents, as I said, include two things: business case and benefit management plan. And agreement is whatever kind of contract or agreement you are in. MOU, it can be MOU, it can be contract, it can be whatever kind of agreement. So these things, armed with these things, he enters into initiation, and he is now to assign uh, this order to start the project to some project manager. Now, classically speaking, this is the point where the project manager must be there. Although we have studied earlier that project, it is better for project manager to be hired as soon as possible, even before uh, the initiation of the project. Yes, that would be good, because while the business documents are being created, if the project manager was working with business analysts, he would know more and better about the project. But anyways, even if the project manager comes into existence at this point at initiation, then project sponsor will hand over a document to him which provides him the authorization to start the project, to mobilize the resources for this project. So this document is called project charter, and you can see the project charter is going down towards the planning. So project charter, which was created from initiating process group, is going to planning process group. Moreover, once the project manager has been given the charter, naturally he might have certain doubts and queries, so he interacts with the project sponsor and clarifies those things. And when and this is just a high order, high level understanding he develops. He doesn't need to go into a lot many detail at this stage, but he just clears his mind about what he is supposed to be doing. So far, he has not yet committed that this can be done or it cannot be done, but he has received the charter. Now, the next thing, before he can explore more about what the project is and how should it be done, he should first understand who are the people who will be interacting with him. So, all those people who are the stakeholders who will interact with him or who will affect or be affected by the consequences of the project will be the stakeholders, and he has to create a list of all those stakeholders into a stakeholder register. So identify stakeholder is a process which happens in initiation. So first process was develop project charter, which was done by the project sponsor, and the charter was given to the project manager, and now project manager does the identification of the stakeholders, and as a result he yields the project register, which contains the list of all the stakeholders so far identified. Moreover, he can also do an analysis on these stakeholders and prioritize them, create a strategy how to manage different kinds of stakeholders. So if we can somehow categorize these stakeholders into several categories and then decide which category to be treated how, this is called the stakeholder management strategy. A moment, because I have a question. Sharyar, what is the question?
Able to hear me, sir?
Is there any question?
Yes, sir. Sir, आवाज आ रही
जी
है?
आ रही
जी, questions हैं actually.
जी जी
सर, जो RFP और क्यों RFI है,
जी
तो ये पूछना चाहिए ये किस प्रोसेस में होती है? ये क्वेश्चन
Okay, there are two things. Number
क्वेश्चन
one,
2 ने कहा कि
okay, जी जी
टू है सर, आप ये प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर है वो प्रोजेक्ट चार्टर रिसीव करता है,
हम्म
तो क्या प्रोजेक्ट चार्टर
Okay,
receiving from the other stakeholder clarify करते हैं.
Sharyar, the thing is, when a project manager receives the charter, the contract has already been signed. I mean, if we have been awarded this contract, if my company has been awarded this contract, the contract has already been signed between my company and the customer company. So that is not my business to deal with the RFI, RFP, RFQ, or whatever that thing is. I have been now ordered to do this project. I might have been involved in that process, but it is not my responsibility as a project manager to deal with that. I will be given the ultimate contract according to which I have to do this project. So I will be given the charter from the project sponsor, and based on that, I will start working. So as far as the contract between two companies is concerned, this is not my concern. So I will just start, I will abide by the contract. I will work according to the contract, but, and I may have received those other documents coming alongside the contract, but basically they have been done, and that is not my responsibility to move it any further. I have to comply with the contract, number one. Number two, uh, while doing my project, I may feel that there are certain areas of my project which has to be outsourced. That is my procurement requirement. So for that, if you can see this arrow, I will I'll do a decision, make or buy decision. Which of the tasks which I have identified for my project can be done by me and which cannot be done by me. So once I have decided which of the tasks or activities cannot be done by me, so that therefore it is decided they have to be outsourced. So how will they be outsourced? I will create the complete set of procurement documents. You see a arrow going from planning upwards to initiation. That is the project procurement documents, RFP, RFI and everything. But that relates to the work which I want to outsource. This is not about the contract which have been given to my company. I'm not dealing with that. I'm dealing with the procurement of my within my contract, within my project. So procurement documents are being sent to initiation as if the stakeholders can be identified which relate to that procurement document. Whatever I want to procure from some contractor, who could be those contractors? They can be initiated, they can be identified in initiation. So this arrow is going back there for that purpose. Then we will create the source selection criteria, and during execution, as you remember, during execution, we will actually deal with the process of awarding the contract. And once that has been awarded, then we will just control the contract according to whatever has been signed with our contractor. So did I answer your question? Okay, you probably are not there. Shahid, please, you first.
Sir, as far as I remember, I refer to the initiation process group. As far as I remember, there were two outputs, a project charter and an assumption log. So here I can see we have stakeholder register and the stakeholder management strategy as an input from initiation process group to the planning process group. So my question was, are both of these items part of assumption log? Because as far as I remember, we had two outputs, a project charter and an assumption log from the initiation process group.
There are some major outputs and some minor outputs. We are showing on this diagram only the major outputs, right? There are so many, many small little things which are not really that important. So what is more important is what is shown on this chart. Charter is important. Assumption log is not that important. You understand my point? Yes, sir. Right, Sharia?
Yes, sir, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. जी Sharia.
यस सर सर आपने भी समझाया था कि एग्जीक्यूटिंग प्रोसेस ग्रुप जो है वो वेंडर को सिलेक्ट कर लेगा जो मेक एंड बाय डिसीजन जो हुआ है उधर जो है प्लानिंग में तो ये सर इधर किधर मेंशन्ड है इस डायग्राम में ये जो चीजें हैं इसमें यहाँ कहीं स्पेसिफाई नहीं है
just look down here you can see the seller here. You can see the seller.
Yes sir. Okay.
Here we are awarding.
Yes, I can see.
Seller is proposing and we are awarding him the contract. This is happening here. And if you can look at this place, selected seller along with its contract is being sent to monitoring and control, and monitoring and control is then implementing that contract.
सर एक क्वेश्चन है एक्चुअली लाइक हेलो
जी जी
सर एक्चुअली जिस फर्म में मैं काम करता हूँ उसमें एक्चुअली इनिशियली प्रोजेक्ट के बॉर्न होने से पहले ही RFP और RFQ का जो प्रोसेस होता है उसमें प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजर इन्वॉल्व होता है, तो मैंने तो यही देखा हुआ अपनी कंपनी में।
ओके दैट
तो
इज
आप वो कह रहे थे हालांकि उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं होती।
You see, there is no problem at all. We do not contest that. You see, we have already said that you can involve project manager as soon as possible. Maybe while the business document is going on or the business analysis is going on, project manager could have been involved, and he could have been involved in the process of, bidding process or proposals and all that, if you are the contractor. So you could have been involved there. But as far as the project is concerned, once the agreement has been signed, once the contract has been signed, the RFP, RFI, etc. do not carry any weightage any further. Now you have to abide by the contract, whatever has been signed. So basically, what you have been doing is the business analyst's duties. You are doing dual duties. You are not doing the project manager's duty alone. You are also being a business analyst for your organization. So you are preparing the RFPs, RFIs, bidding for that, receiving, negotiating for the contract, ultimately getting the contract. But when you get the project, that is the time charter is issued. Got it?
Yes, sir. Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. There was another question coming from probably, who was it? Umar. Umar, you raised hand some time ago.
Yes, sir. I was asking the same question that you have mentioned that business document agreement and the project charter is actually developed by the project manager, or maybe before that. But I guess what I remember is that project manager is the one actually who makes the project charter by looking at the documents of business document and organizational process assets and environmental factors. So
Okay.
all those documents, he keeps that in front of him, and then he accordingly makes the project charter.
Okay.
Rather, he directly gets involved into the business document or agreements, whatever that.
Okay. You see, I partially agree with you that project manager can help in creating the charter, but the question is, project charter, whose responsibility is the project charter? Project charter is not the responsibility of the project manager. This is the order given to the project manager, and how can project manager order himself to do something? Therefore, this order has to come from the boss of the project manager, and that is the project director or the project sponsor, and basically he is the signing authority on the project charter. The responsibility of writing the project charter and signing the project charter, approving the project charter, is with the project sponsor. I understand that this is not in practice. In most of the organizations, they don't understand the role of project charter. Rather, they don't know what is a project charter. Some of the organizations do not use the word project charter at all. Project charter is a document which generally is possible through, this defines the start of the project. Therefore it is an initiation. Ji, Umar is okay?
Yes.
Okay, any other question, or I will move ahead? Anyone else? Okay, then I can move ahead. So we just got into the discussion of the RFP and procurements also, but we were not supposed to be discussing that at that point. So from initiation, what I am getting is a project charter to the planning and the stakeholder register and the strategy to the planning. And we are giving what planning is giving back to the initiation is the procurement document, and the sole purpose is when the identification of the stakeholders is happening, that is a continuous process. It's not happening only once. So when I learn what portion of the project has to be outsourced, then I will send the procurement documents to the initiation, and the person responsible for identifying the stakeholders will identify those probable sellers or contractors. And that's how I know the new stakeholders. They will be included in the list of stakeholders. So then I will be able to deal with them. That is why it is going back. What all is coming to the initiation in addition to business document and agreement, which was coming from outside? We have got an arrow coming from the enterprise or the organization, which is carrying two things: organizational process assets and enterprise environmental factors. This arrow is bringing that information to initiation, which is going to be useful for developing the charter as well as for identifying the stakeholders. Not only that, these two things are being input into the planning, and it is being updated also. These two things are being input into the monitoring and control and updated also. These two things are being input into the execution process group and updated also. And these two things are going to closing through this arrow. It is not visible. It is going like this to the closing process, and this is the closing process. So closing process is also updating it. So you see, these two things are going to go everywhere. All the 5 process groups will have organizational process assets and enterprise environmental factors, and therefore I can broadly say that every process in these 5 process groups may have these two inputs, and most of them do. Only there are some places where organizational process assets or enterprise environmental factors are not being input to a process. Almost all 49 processes have both of them as input, but some do not have one or both. Only some. And why is the reason? I have told you the reason earlier as well. When we start a project, in initiation and planning, we do not have much to rely on, and we have to rely heavily on these two items. Although we keep relying on them during execution, monitoring, control, and close, but because in execution I have got ample data generated from the plans, and therefore there might be certain places, only certain places, 1 or 2 places, where we may not need these organizing process assets or enterprise environmental factors. So this thing is further reinforced in monitoring and control, because monitoring and control is highly dependent upon execution and planning, and a lot of data is coming to monitoring and control. Due to that, if that specific process in monitoring and control does not require organizational process assets and enterprise environmental factors, that will not have it. And that is again very few and very seldom. And same is true for closing. But generally speaking, they are going everywhere. What else is coming to initiation? We have catered about this arrow, this arrow, this arrow, charter, and this. We are only not described this arrow. This arrow which is going down, down, and down to execution, and this carries the title resource calendar. And this arrow is also getting back into planning. What is the resource calendar? Let me describe it to you. Resource calendar is the availability, timing, and dates of a specific resource. So all the resources, whether they are human resources or inhuman resources or objects or tools or whatever, they all have to be available for the work we are doing during execution. So I can, right from initiation, some resources have already been mobilized. For example, project manager has already been mobilized, and the resource calendar of project manager has become available. But and we will plan a lot many things. We'll plan all the resources and everything, but we may not even know who will be those people and when they will be hired. Maybe I know when they are hired, but I don't know exactly who are those people and when they will be available. So I do best planning as possible, but actual names and actual timings of their availability will become available during execution when they will be hired. So this information will replace in planning the approximation data. Although planning will have considered some abstract resource calendar, but once the execution has hired that person or thing, that calendar, resource calendar will be available, and that will update the project management plan. So this is what the resource calendar really means. Now, I think we have done all the inputs and outputs of initiation process group. Let's move on to planning. What all is coming to planning? So let's see. From top, it is receiving the project charter. It is also receiving from initiation stakeholder register and the stakeholder management strategy. That is fine with me. Then we are also receiving organizational processes, enterprise non-real factors. That is also okay with me. Then there is a strange arrow going to, which is written teaming agreements, and it is branched from your organization and the customer. So what are these teaming agreements? We already have an agreement with the contract with the customer. Maybe this is in form of a contract or something, but we already have an agreement. But that agreement is about what is to be done. Now there are certain jobs within this project or this assignment which have to be done jointly. Maybe the customer team and our team will have to work together. For those, we will have to establish the teaming agreements. We will define the roles and responsibilities of each person, of each party. So that would be the teaming agreements. Then the requirements would be coming from the customer. So this arrow is also explained. So all the gray arrows here, 3 gray arrows are explained. We also have already talked about the resource calendar. So resource calendar is also okay. So let's talk what is going out of it. Planning, what is going out of it. One arrow going up carrying the procurement document. It's the same one which we said that we will decide in planning what is the make or buy thing, and anything which are outsourcing. For that, we will send the procurement documents to initiation for identification of stakeholders. Then the arrow going down, this is that decision, the make or buy decision, what we want to do, what we cannot do, and that source selection criteria, how the contractors will be selected. So this much is for procurement. So these 2 arrows relate to procurement. This one, the procurement document one, and the one with the make or buy decision. The most important thing here is whatever happens in planning, there are 24 processes in planning, and these 24 processes ultimately create the project management plan. But in short, what do you get out of planning? There are basically 2 things you get out of planning. One is the project management plan, which includes, as you know, all the management plans and all the baselines, right? So this is called project management plan. This project management plan is shared with monitoring and control, is shared with execution, and is shared with closing. So all the subsequent 3 process groups will get a copy of project management plan. And all the other documents which are created, which are not executable documents, which are just calculations and tables and all that, they are submitted into the project documents archive. So this is the other thing. All other documents are getting into that. So this explains all the in and out arrows of planning process group. So I was not answering any questions in between. I wanted to complete the planning process group. So now I'm getting back to Shahriyar Bhatti. Please ask what you are asking.
So resource initiative group से जा रहा है एग्जीक्यूट, लेकिन इससे पिछली में तो रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट और स्केड्यूल मैनेजमेंट प्लान
फिर बोलिएगा रिसोर्स का
आवाज आ रही है?
आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी सही तरह से, फिर बोलिएगा।
क्वेश्चन रिसोर्स कैलेंडर जा रहा है, जा रही प्रोसेस ग्रुप से एग्जीक्यूट, लेकिन पिछली डायग्राम पे रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट प्लान, शूटिंग पैटर्न और स्केड्यूल मैनेजमेंट प्लान, वो सारा जो है वो प्लान प्रोसेस ग्रुप का पार्ट था। वो इनिशिएटिंग से क्यों जा रही है?
ओके, दिस इज
इन्फॉर्मेशन तो प्लानिंग, तो ये थोड़ी सी अगर पिछली डायग्राम में आप जाएं तो उसमें
वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट एनी नॉलेज एरिया हियर, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट आवर रिसोर्स. Our resource was project manager is a resource, right? Although planning of resources have yet not started, But project manager is a resource and he has been mobilized during initiation. So I know when he will be available, how many hours he will work daily, and how many days a week he will work. I know already. Though the planning is not being done for the resources, but when it will be done, this information will be included in that plan. But because the project manager has been mobilized, the resource calendar only of the project manager has become available. And this is going to execution as if execution knows that project manager is available. So whichever resource starts becoming available, the resource calendar will be shared with planning and execution. Most of the resource calendars will be planned in planning and will become available in execution. So this line which is going carrying the resource calendar shows the interaction of the updation of resource calendar. So resource calendar has absolutely nothing to do with the knowledge area exclusively. This is a general flow of the resource calendar.
So it is specific to project manager actually,
For the
resource
time being,
calendar.
in initiation,
Okay.
this line is specific to the project manager or whomsoever is with him at that stage. Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Most welcome. There was another hand. I don't know who was he. Uh, please raise your hand again. Who had a question? Shahid Saab. Ji, please.
Actually, sir, I had the same question. I was a bit confused that how come we can identify the resource at the initiation process group and float it to the planning and execution.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would be done in the resource management plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course it
So
will be
it was.
done. Of course it will be done in the planning. But as soon as any resource becomes available, we have to cater that resource.
But sir, there is one. There is a. I mean, I'm a bit confused. In initiation, we are basically developing a project charter, and we are basically identifying stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a separate process group, the resource management plan for it to decide what resources are we going to use and when would be how should we schedule their availability. So why are we actually focusing on deciding the resources in the initiation process group rather than if we have a separate process group, then why are
Okay.
we relying on initiation?
We are not relying on initiation at all. We simply agree and understand that the resource planning will happen in planning. We fully agree with that. But the thing is, a project manager has to be assigned the work. And at that time, there is no resource planning done because resource planning will be done by the project manager. You understand my point? So project manager himself is a resource which has become available even before the resource planning has started. And only for that person, that one resource, the resource calendar is known. So because it is known, so resource calendar has come in action no matter the plan is existing or not. But later when the plan develops, this will be cemented into that. Actually, in initiation, we don't have all the knowledge areas represented. So basically, charter itself takes care of the scope of the immediate resources which have to be hired, like project manager. So this is the job of the project charter to assign a project manager. The sponsor will assign a project manager. So charter will be given to him. So this much of resource management or whatever small little risk management is also done there in charter. In charter, you give the major risks of the whole project. You provide the major constraints of the whole project. You also provide some little detail about what is expected cost of the project. So those information in the charter are not coming from the detailed plans. They are coming from the business case or the project sponsor. Therefore, it is form part of the charter. But when we move into the planning, the things will be further elaborated and explained. Is it okay, Shahid?
Sir, so what I understand is that in the initiation, we actually highlight the period for which the project manager is going to be available, right?
Exactly. I hire the project manager is supposedly a long-term job, and when I hire him for certain number of working hours per week and hours per day and all that. So I already know how long he will be available, when he will be not. He will and he will not be available.
All right, that's fine. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Okay, so we have done the planning thing. We did not go into the detail of each and every plan. We said whatever happens in the planning, ultimately it yields the project management plan, which is shared with all the subsequent process groups like execution, monitoring and control, and closing, and everything we developed during establishing our baselines and the project management plan, all calculation, all other documents which are not part of the project management plan, they form part of the project documents. They are not required for execution purposes, but they are only required for referential purposes later when we have to revise a plan or do something, some calculations, then we will be referring to them. But actually all executable things are in project management plan. All the three baselines are there which are actually to be executed, and all the about instructions and guidelines about every knowledge area are there in the project management plan. All the knowledge areas, management plans are included in it. So this is a complete capsule which includes everything what is to be done. Okay, let's move on to execution and see what we receive. Okay, first of all, we see the make or buy decision is coming to execution. In planning, we have already decided what to do and what not to do, what is to be done by ourselves, what is to be outsourced. So that decision has come to me, along with the source selection criteria, that those items which have to be procured, how they are going to be procured, what is the criteria and method of doing that. So execution is just supposed to act on that. Moreover, I have already had the RFI, RFP and everything prepared in planning, which was sent to initiation also. That is also available for execution. So in execution, talking about procurement, my responsibility is to float this advertisement in the daily newspapers or whatever mechanism we use, invite the bidders, and then they will come up with their proposals and all, analyze them, and ultimately analyze them according to the source selection criteria. Ultimately, we select someone and negotiate with him and award the contract to him. So we have ultimately awarded this contract to one of the sellers. So whomsoever are the sellers selected, the selected seller name is being sent backwards. You can see that selected seller is sent backwards forward to the monitoring and control, as if the procurement control can take care of that. So according to the contract signed, now these sellers will be managed by the procurement guy. This is as far as the procurement is concerned. Then we have got an arrow coming from top, that is from project documents. So project documents uh, can be received by execution, can be received by monitoring and control. Both can receive them and update them. So these are the calculations or papers or whatever estimations you have done. So they can make use of these documents, further calculate them, correct them, send them back to the documentations. So this can be done both ways, in execution as well as in monitoring and control. Resource calendar, we have already understood. We also understand that this arrow is bringing the organizational process assets and enterprise environmental factors. And we also understand these two arrows, which are the seller proposal is coming and procurement contract award is going back to seller. And now we are left with and project management plan is coming here. Now we are left with only two arrows, one going to monitoring and control and one coming back from monitoring and control. So what does that do? You remember I told you that execution, that is the direct and managed project work, this sends out two things. What? Number one, the deliverable, whatever has been created so far, and the work performance data. These are the two items going to monitoring and control. I also told you that execution can also move the change requests. If there is something which is creating hurdle in execution and immediate change is required, the change request can be moved from any of the processes in execution. So this is the change request going to monitoring and control. And we have just selected the seller, and selected sellers along with their contract is also going to monitoring and control. So this is all happening in monitoring and control. In execution. So we have discussed all the arrows coming in and going out of execution. If there is anything which you are not really clear about, please raise your hand and tell me. I can explain it again. Execution, any doubt in execution? One thing I still did not explain, and that is deliverable is going. What happens to the deliverable? Do you remember? When deliverable goes to monitoring and control, it directly hits only two processes will deal with the deliverable, and both will conduct their own inspection. First inspection is carried out by quality control, and if that passes, the deliverable becomes verified deliverable. Then it hits validate scope. Validate scope checks it for completeness, and user acceptance testing is done there. And once it is approved from there, then it is called accepted deliverable. This is just to be handed over to the customer then. So this is as far as the deliverable happens. Then is a change request. Any change request generated from execution going to monitoring and control will directly hit only one place, because all the change requests can go only to one place, and that is perform integrated change control. That is the integration process. Then what? Work performance data goes to every control and every monitor in monitoring and control. And naturally, the project management plan is already going to monitoring and control. So every process has the project management plan, and every process has now the work performance data. They are now capable of comparing them, finding the variance, analyzing them, uh, establishing the trend analysis, creating the projections, finding the forecasts. So all this analysis forms the result is the work performance information. All these performance informations generated from each one of these controls and monitors will be sent to one single place, and that is called monitor and control project work, which will assemble all this data into a work performance report. Moreover, each one of these controls also have the authority that if they find that there is any scope, time, or cost baselines are being disturbed by any of these analyses, they can request a change. And any change request generated from any of these controls will also land up to the perform integrated change control. So perform integrated change control will receive all the change requests, whether they are coming from execution or anywhere from the monitoring and control. So this is what is going to the monitoring and control. Now, what is coming back from monitoring and control? This arrow, the things are coming back to execution. All the change requests which get approved, they are sent back to execution, as if execution knows which change requests have been approved and which plans have been amended, as if they can start adopting the newer format of the plan, the latest version of the plan and the project documents. Once a change request is approved, the requisite project management plan is updated along with the relevant project documents. Both are updated, as if any new reference would be from the latest version. Then work performance report generated from monitor and control project work, which you remember is created out of the work performance information. This is sent naturally to within the monitor and control also. This is sent somewhere, but it is also sent to execution, and especially in execution when we have to manage the people, manage the team. That is the place where this is most important, because there is no monitoring and control of human resources. There is a control of the non-living resources, but as far as the human resources are concerned, they are mobilized during execution and they are laid off during execution. So all the reports written for the people are to be done through managed team. How would anyone write a report of the managed team or treat these people uh, correctly? That would be based on the work performance report, which is now coming back from monitoring and control. Last but not the least is the quality control measurement. Why is quality control measurement going back to execution? In execution, we had managed quality process, which was the only process which was having an eye on the ongoing processes during execution. But it could not have found all the bugs and problems. Anything which was, you know, which could be dug up, which could be explored, only that could be found and fixed. But there are many things which could not be found. So basically, managed quality is doing a hit and trial kind of a effort. It can fix a lot many things, but it cannot have the whole picture until and unless the quality control measurements are received by managed quality. So all the quality control measurements which are done through the during the inspection of quality control are sent back to execution, and that will carry the data that these are the defects coming and this is the number of defects, and based on that report the managed quality process will be better armed to locate the cause of that problem and fix that problem, thus improving the processes, which is the basic function of managed quality. So this is all about this cycle going on. This cycle of things coming from execution to monitoring and control, and things going back from monitoring and control to execution will continue. This is a repetitive cycle until and unless all the change requests have been dealt with, all the deliverables have been approved, no more quality control measurements going back, and all the work performance reports have been received. That's it. When this cycle breaks, there is no more to transfer. Then is the time when monitor and control sends everything, like whatever they have. They have the product, verified product, validated product, which is accepted deliverable. This is sent to closing, and all the documentation is sent to closing. And you remember that in closing we do nothing except for paper audit. We check all the documents. We hand over the deliverable to the customer. This is the final product, service, the result is being handed over to customer, and all the artifacts, all the documents are sent back to organizational process assets. So that way we finish the project. Project concludes at that point. So after having understood the table which we explained yesterday and this flow, I am sure that you have a better understanding of how the things operate. Now I would like to invite your comments. Any questions so far? जी भाई शेयर यार.
सर मेरे दो क्वेश्चंस हैं एक्चुअली. फर्स्ट वन इज ये क्वालिटी कंट्रोल मेजरमेंट्स, इसमें यकीनन एरर्स जा रहे हैं जो है एग्जीक्यूटिंग प्रोसेस ग्रुप पे. तो ये बेसिकली केपीआईज हैं जो कि जिसके अगेंस्ट वैलिडेट होती हैं जो मेजरमेंट्स हैं. अगर उसमें कोई फिक्स आता है, अगर कोई बग है तो उसके अगेंस्ट वो वैलिडेट करते हैं. वो इस एग्जीक्यूट प्रोसेस ग्रुप में जाता है वो इस तरह.
We want
और सेकंड क्वेश्चन है सर कि जो
पहले इसका जवाब कर लेते हैं. फर्स्ट वी वांट टू आइडेंटिफाई those problems, those bugs, and actually the measurements will indicate towards those bugs. For example, you have got you have a factory of Bata shoes, and you have observed that there are a number of shoes whose soles are not properly fixed, right? So this is a defect coming for some time. So this control measurement report is sent back to managed quality, and managed quality will see that this is the biggest defect we are having, and which is the process responsible for this defect. So it will go to that machine which is fixing the soles. And once it inspects that machine, it finds out that machine is working okay, there is no problem with the machine. Then what is the problem? Then there must be a problem with the raw material. So it goes down into the raw material and sees what type of glue is being used. It finds out that the glue has been changed for last 1 month and the new source glue is not that good, and that is exactly why the thing is happening. So he improves the process, he changes the source of the glue and makes it possible that such like defects no more occur. That's how the quality control measurement can benefit the process improvement.
सर ये minimum quality checks तो executing process group में भी होंगे, right? I mean, before passing it to the monitoring and controlling.
One thing you should remember, anything to do with the product, quality of the product is not done in execution. Execution does not concern itself with the product. Product is quality control issue. Here, process or the work is the issue of quality assurance or managed quality. The only thing about the product it can do is it can help quality control know the checklist, what should be checked in the product. जी सर.
Yeah, sir. Lastly, sir, ये जो testing phase है, it is obvious कि वो सारा monitoring and controlling में होगा.
जी जी बिल्कुल.
जो भी deliverable है, बस सर यही था बस.
Validate scope is the testing thing. This is a user acceptance testing. Validation is user acceptance testing. You see the two inspections we have in monitoring and control. First is quality control and the other is validate scope. Quality control is about the correctness of the product and validate scope is about the completeness of the product. So completeness is the user acceptance testing. Done, ji?
Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Any other questions, ji? Anything you need to talk about here? Okay, what I'm going to do is I will talk about each one of these processes, but just give me a 5-minute break. I will get back to you and then we will talk about each one of these processes. And today I intend completing all of these 5 processes in detail. And from tomorrow onwards, we can start the integration process. So just give me 5 minutes. Thank you. Let us start from where I left. Okay, once again asking you, if there is any doubt so far, please raise hands or hold your peace forever. No more questions? Okay then. I would like to move ahead. We will discuss each and every process group. But you see, now the things are going to be much easier because if you have really understood these two things, the table and the flow, then each one of the process groups would be much easier to understand. So you know and understand what happens in every process. First one is the initiating process. As we know and understand already that in every process group, integration is the only knowledge area which exists in every process group. There is no knowledge area, no other knowledge area which is present in every process group. Why is it required to have integration in every process group is because integration is in charge. Integration is the father of every process, all the process groups, and therefore it has the role of managing everything happening in that process group. If I can just take you back to the initial diagram, let me see if I can. Okay, which is stuck. Let me fix it. Okay. Anyways, I'll continue while the computer is fixing itself. Uh, I was saying that integration is leading in all of the process group. If I take every process group one by one, you will find that integration is present in every process group. Okay, let this appear in front of you. Yeah, now you can see this. Okay, just look at integration. It is present in initiation, it is present in planning, one process in initiation, one process in planning, two processes in execution, two processes in monitoring and control, and one process in closing. But it is everywhere. It is everywhere. Look at scope. It doesn't have anything in initiation and nothing in execution. Initiation, nothing in execution, and nothing in closing. It just has processes in either planning or monitoring and control. Same is true for schedule. Same is true for cost. As far as quality is concerned, we have got nothing in initiation and nothing in closing, but we have got the processes in planning, execution, and monitoring and control. Same is true for resource management, communication management, and risk management. As far as the and procurement management also, the as far as the stakeholder engagement is concerned, that is the only process which has initiation, one process in initiation. It has one process in planning. You can't see it right now, but it has one process in planning, one process in execution, one process in monitoring and control, but nothing in closing. So closing is one process. Closing process group is the one which has nothing else but integration. So that further cements my case that integration is the only process group which is present. Integration is the only knowledge area which is present in each of the process groups. So in initiation, you will find it. You will find it in planning, execution, everywhere. So this is the one in charge. Okay. Now, what is the convention here? There is a rounded arrow shown here. The round arrow around the integration management process. And what does that show? That is in command. So this process is in command, and this interacts with whatever other processes are. So the only process, other process, is identify stakeholder, and the way it is shown is in the box is the name of the process, and in the gray box behind the box of the process is shown the name of the knowledge area of that process. So develop project charter relates to integration management. Identify stakeholder relates to project stakeholder management. The name of the processes in initiation are the develop project charter and identify stakeholder. So as we have explained, project sponsor comes armed with the business documents and the agreement, and he creates the project charter. He assigns the project manager. He creates the project charter, and maybe project manager may have helped in creating the charter, but basically the signing authority is the project sponsor. So this is about the project charter. And project manager who has just been assigned, he might have asked certain questions and got certain clarifications from the project sponsor. So once he has a bird's eye view of the whole thing, where he understands his assignment, then before he can start planning in detail, he starts identifying the stakeholders. That is important, because until and unless he identifies the stakeholders and he understands the stakeholders, he cannot uh, correctly collect all the data about the project. So he needs to identify the stakeholders. So he tries to compile a list of all the stakeholders and maybe establishes a strategy to deal with various categories of stakeholders. This all is done in initiation process group, and that's all about initiation process group. There is nothing else happening here. So this is what is initiation process group. Next is the planning. Planning, you understand, is the heaviest of all. This is the heaviest process process group of all, because it carries the maximum number of processes. Out of the 49 processes, there are 24 processes here. Let us count these 24 processes. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 processes in scope, 5 processes in schedule, 3 in cost, 2 in resources, 5 in risk, and remaining 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 4 and 5, 9, and 3, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. 24 processes in planning. So this is almost the 50% of the total number of 49 processes. And in the middle of the whole diagram is shown the rounded arrow, within which is the integration management, and the process name is develop project management plan. I hope you understand what is the role of project management plan. We have talked about it already. So it won't be any difficult for you to understand what project management plan is doing, sitting in the center and interacting with all of these. Now this provides little guidance to all of them how to do their job, and then they start creating their own management plans and whatever baselines and other documents also. So they create that and share that back with integration, which ultimately completes the project management plan. Let us go to each one of these boxes. First of all, let's talk about scope. When scope starts at work, the standard rule what we understood was, first of all, create a management plan. And if it is one of the project objectives, then create a baseline at the end. So scope, time, and cost, all three of them will have the same behavior. In the very first process, they will create the management plan. In the very last process, at the end of it, they will create a baseline, right? So in between, there might be other processes like these. So these processes will create some data. That data will actually be going to the project documents, and the management plan and baselines will be going to the project management plan. So let us see what scope does. When we say plan, scope, management, so what is created? Somebody to help me. Amreen, can you tell me what is created in plan, scope, management? Ji Amreen, can you hear me? Okay, anyone else?
Hello?
Ji Amreen. What is created in...
Sorry, sir. I couldn't hear you, sir.
I said, what is the output of plan, scope, management? What do we create in plan, scope, management?
The scope?
What is the name of that document? What are we
Sorry,
trying
sir.
to create here? Is the scope management plan, right?
Yes, sir.
And the peculiarity of scope is there is another management plan beside the scope management plan, which is created here in the same process. And what is the name of that management plan? That is the requirements management plan. Mohsin and Shahid, I hope I have answered that. But if you want to speak, Mohsin. Ji Mohsin.
You have answered, sir. You have answered already.
Okay. Ji
The
Shahid.
question which you were asking.
Ji Shahid. We create two things in plan scope
Sir, I was
management.
about to answer, but you answered it already. So
Wonderful,
I
wonderful,
guess.
wonderful. I understand that you people are really very intelligent and you are actually on the dot. So this is exactly what I want. I want everybody to understand everything. So plan scope management is the only one knowledge area, one process which will create not one but two plans, two management plans, requirement management plan and the scope management plan. Rest all the knowledge areas. The first process like plan schedule management will create the schedule management plan, plan scope, cost management will create the cost management plan, plan stakeholder management, stakeholder management plan, and so on and so forth. So one plan each. But here we have two plans. So these become 10 plans. 10 management plans go to project management plan. And three baselines. Scope baseline is created here, schedule baseline is created here, and cost baseline is created here. All of these three baselines come into the project management plan, and that gets completed. This is the minimum requirement of the project management plan. I must tell you, there are few things more which could be accommodated in the project management plan, but generally speaking, I am not talking about them right now. But that could be the approach you are using, or the life cycle, project life cycle you are using. This could also be a separate documents could be there. Then you could have a change management plan, you could have a configuration management plan. These are in addition to these 10 management plans. But anyways, I will talk about them later. But yes, scope management plan, you have the plan scope management, you have the scope management plan and the requirement management plan. Then we collect the requirements in accordance with the scope management plan and the requirements management plan. Both apply to collection of requirements. As a result, we will get the requirement document. And not only the requirement document, but the requirement traceability matrix, that is how to trace the requirements backwards and forwards. This is the output of the collect requirements. Based on that, I will define the scope. That means scope statement will be developed here. Define the scope, with product scope will be defined, project scope will be defined, project life cycle will be defined, phases will be defined, and ultimately project scope statement will be complete. Based on the project scope statement, we will break down the work of the project into work packages. That is a hierarchy created, which is called create work breakdown structure. Once that is done, the work of scope planning is complete. So the scope statement we created and the work breakdown structure, and one more thing, that is work breakdown structure dictionary. Work breakdown structure dictionary is a list of all the work packages, the lowest level of this hierarchy, the list of all the work packages with a brief detail or description about that work package. This is the tabular form. So these three things, one thing is the scope statement, which comes out of the defined scope, and then is the WBS and the WBS dictionary. These three things are included in the scope baseline, which are submitted into the project management plan. You see, we have created some other things also. We created the requirement document. We created the requirement traceability matrix, and maybe some other documents could have been created in this process. So those outputs are not part of the project management plan. They will be sent to project document archive, which is not shown here. So they will be sent to project document archive. So this completes the scope part. Let's move on to schedule. Plan schedule management will give us the schedule management plan. Then we will define the activities. A list of activity list will be created. A milestone list will be created. Activity attributes will be selected. So these are the major three outputs from here. Then based on this output, we will be able to sequence the activities. So a sequence will be established. Network diagram will be created. Then we will estimate activity durations, so that estimated durations will be available. And all of this data which we have just created will get into the developed schedule, and that will form the ultimate shape of your schedule, how activities will behave. Actually, this is not only these activities which are summing up to be the developed schedule, but you see the estimate of cost is contributing towards that, the resource estimate is contributing towards that, and all other knowledge areas could also have impacted the schedule, but ultimately the schedule is created. That is called develop schedule process. The output is the schedule baseline. The ultimate schedule, the final schedule you create here, is called the schedule baseline. All remaining documents, you created the activity list, you created the milestone list, activity attributes, network diagram, duration estimates, basis for estimate. All of these outputs go to project documents. And the only thing which is getting into the project management plan is either the schedule management plan or the schedule baseline. Coming over to cost, only three processes. First process, plan cost management, creates the cost management plan. Then you develop your detailed estimates, bottom up estimation is done by the project manager and his team. Detailed estimation is done, and they present their estimates in front of the people who are giving them the budget, and that is criticized, and naturally that is adjusted and all that. And once the budget is allocated, you have a cost baseline created. We'll talk more in detail about how the budget is created and what is the shape of that, but that is the cost baseline you create. So what you have done in cost management plan, then you have created the cost estimates and the basis for estimate, and ultimately that has been budgeted. And that means the cost baseline is created. The cost baseline will get into the project management plan along with the cost management plan, and the estimates and the basis for estimate will go into the project documents. Similarly, quality management. Our quality management plan will be created naturally, and maybe because there are no other processes, there are other documents also created beside, like quality checklist and this and that. All those other documents which are created during this process are sent to the project documents, whereas the quality management plan will enter the project management plan. Resources, we create a resource management plan, and then we estimate the resources. The estimate resource is contributing towards the development of the estimate duration and cost estimate, and all three of them contributing towards the development of schedule. Therefore, there is no baseline of the requirement as resources as such, and the only thing which is submitted to the project plan is the resource management plan, and remaining all other resource estimates and the basis for estimate is sent to the project documents. Communication creates a communication management plan, and any reports and returns, formats and all that, they go into the project documents. Procurement management plan is created in procurement management, and the make or buy decision, the source selection criteria, the procurement documents, and all what is created is formed part of the project documents, whereas procurement management plan goes into the project management plan. Then come over to the risk. Risk is deliberate because this is something we have to go do proactively. So we create a comprehensive risk management plan. Risk management plan is sent to project management plan, and then we identify the various risks. Then we do the qualitative analysis. We update the risk register. We create the risk reports. We do the quantitative analysis, further enhance the risk reports and risk registers, and ultimately we develop the responses. All of this is being updated into the risk registers and risk reports, which are part of the project documents. Risk management plan only goes into this. Similarly, plan stakeholder management will give us a stakeholder management plan, and if any communication requirements or other things are there, they will go into the project documents. So this is how the planning process will go on. I hope everything is clear about the planning now. Any questions about planning? I have discussed all 24 processes with you. It is not difficult. It is not impossible to understand and learn. Although we will go and in detail in each of the knowledge area, and we will talk about each and every process and each and every tool and technique and input and output. But for now, I think this gives you a fair picture how these 24 processes, what they are doing and how they are interacting. Right. If that is okay, I can move on to the next step. Next is execution. Now in execution, if you remember, we have discussed already that there is no role of scope and time and cost in execution. These three things are not there, right? Therefore, you won't see them here. Then in integration, which is shown in the center, interacting with all other existing processes of different knowledge areas, integration has not one but two processes. Direct and managed project work is directly responsible for execution of the baselines, and managed project knowledge is responsible for accumulating all the knowledge base and putting it into a repository. It is a project repository. Till the time this project is running, this knowledge base will be maintained. Later on, it will be handed over to the organization into their organizational process assets. Now, because scope, time and cost is being executed through the direct managed project work, so there is no need to have those processes. What else we have? We have, first of all, we have quality. From quality management knowledge area, we have manage quality. Manage quality is the process which is responsible for quality assurance. So this is the only process which is responsible for live processes. Whatever is happening, it checks them, audits them, and ventures to improve them as best as it can. But this is the only process which can interact with the processes which are undergoing, right? Then we have got the resource management. Resource management, we have three steps here, three processes. The very first process deals with both types of resources, the living resources and non-living resources. All the resources have to be acquired in time. So acquisition of resources include the human resources and other resources. As far as the non-human resources are concerned, you don't have to, motivate them. You don't have to teach them anything. They will do it. They will be just used when required. Therefore, no further action is to be taken as far as the resources are concerned. It is the job of the monitoring and control to take into account the non-living resources. As far as the living resources are concerned, they are not the subject of monitoring and control. They are to be dealt here in execution. And in execution, we have two processes to deal with the human resources. Number one is the develop team, and the other is the manage team. Develop team, we will get the team together. Naturally, we have acquired the team already. So we will develop the team in a way that they know what they need to do. So they will be taught, they will be given a chance to work together as if they establish their work group dynamics, and they are at the best optimum of efficiency and effectiveness level, as if they can be utilized. When they are utilized on the job, actual work starts, they are able to perform at their best. And managed team is when they are put on job, and then you are dealing with the team, providing them motivation, rewards, punishments, and all that. This all is happening in managed team. So this is how the resources are dealt during execution. Communication, as I said before, managed communication does not, and does not postmortem why this communication has not been done. This is not the job of managed communication. Managed communication is responsible for ensuring the communication. Any report or return, you have informed them in planning that who will send what report to whom. But this does not absolve you from the responsibility of that communication. So, as a manager of the communication, project manager is responsible for ensuring that those people who are responsible for making that communication, are they really making that communication? So he has to be present, he has to be interacting with them and ensuring that that communication happens. If that communication does not happen, this is not the mistake of anyone else, but of the project manager himself. Then is the risk management. So the responses we had developed, those will be implemented now. And this is, as I described before, when we are implementing the responses, that doesn't mean that all the risk responses will have to be implemented. Only those which are likely to occur, which we get nearer. There will be many risks which will not occur, and therefore there will be no need for implementing these risk responses. But only those risks which are about to occur, they will be implemented. Then is the procurement. In procurement, we conduct the procurement. Like in execution, in execution, conduct procurement means that you will practically take steps to award the contract. Right from advertising it in newspapers till awarding the contract, all the work is included in procurement, conduct procurement. Then manage stakeholder engagement. Just like communication, we have to ensure that all the stakeholder needs and expectations are being met. So we will communicate with stakeholders and ensure that they are happy and whatever they expected is being done. We are not doing the postmortem of how the communication, how the stakeholders have been, but we are doing it how it is being done. Because analyzing it later is a postmortem, and that can only be done in monitoring and control. So this concludes the execution process. So we have got how many processes here? 2 in integration, 3 in resources, and rest 1 process each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there are 10 execution processes. So moving on, then comes the monitoring and control. In monitoring and control, we have all the knowledge areas present. Naturally, integration is in the middle, and integration also again has 2 processes. One is the chief analyst and the other is the chief controller. Chief analyst I was calling monitor and control project work, and perform integrated change control is responsible for dealing with the change request. Okay, so we understand what they do. So what is scope doing here? Scope is doing 2 things. Number 1, it is validating the scope, that is the inspection to ensure user acceptance and correctness of the deliverable. Control scope is dealing with the analysis of the process analysis of the scope. So the project management plan and the work performance data received by control scope will look at how the scope has been fulfilled, how well it has been fulfilled. Are we ahead or behind? Is there a variation? Then that variation is being analyzed, and the work performance information generated is submitted to monitor and control project work. Same the control schedule is doing. It is from the perspective of schedule. It is comparing the project management plan, the schedule, and the work performance data, and whatever analysis and forecasting is, it is being sent to monitor and control project work. Cost will also do the same. I'm sorry, I missed out making an arrow with cost. It is missing. It should be there. Then quality. Project quality management process is the control quality, and here the physical deliverable inspections are carried out to find the correctness of the object. If something is not correct, it will be rejected, and a change request can also be moved from here. So anyone can move change request, control scope, control schedule, control cost, control quality, control resource. Anyone who moves a change request could all the change requests, even coming from execution, will reach perform integrated change control, and that will take the responsibility of you know processing the change request. The control resource will ensure according to the plan, and only the non-living resources here, because living resources are not the subject here. That's why the word control is used. Otherwise, they would have written monitor. If it was living resources also, they would have written monitor and control. But it is control resources. That means only the non-living resources, their inventory is being controlled here. How many instruments or how many items were received, how many were put on place, and how many are left, and things like that. So this is called control resources. And if there is a change request from control resources, that can be sent to integrated change control, and the variations would be sent to in shape of work performance information to monitor and control project work. Communication, same thing. Monitor communications, any change request coming to integrated change control, and work performance data going to monitor and control project work. Same with risk, but risk has a wider responsibility, because risk will be active, and it will be watching any changes. Whatever is happening, it will keep identifying new risk, and keep, this is a repetitive process. So this may generate a lot of change requests according to the situation. Control procurements, whatever the contracts have been awarded, now this control procurement process is responsible for executing or acting upon that contract that the seller is doing, the contractor is doing the work, and we are inspecting him, or we are actually dealing with him. So all the work performance information generated from here will go to monitor and control project work, and any change request will go to integrated change control. Same is true for monitor stakeholder engagement. So each one of these controls, as I said, each one of these controls does its own analysis, converts the work performance data into work performance information, sends it to monitor and control project work, which uh, consolidates and creates the work performance report. The report, one copy of that goes to manage team in execution, one copy goes to perform integrated change control, one copy goes to monitor risk, and there might be few other places. But these are the major places where this work performance, work performance report is going. So that much for monitoring and control. That brings us to the last process group, that is closing, having only one process, and that process is close project or phase. And I have already explained what is the purpose of this process. This is the only process. This will ensure the audit is done, paper audit is done, on all the documentations are there complete. There is nothing outstanding. All the deliverables are complete, and they are being received, and the lessons learned, the repository is submitted to the organization, the deliverables are submitted to the customer, the people are laid off, as naturally, if anybody is left, he would be going off, and ultimately project is declared closed. So this is the whole big story about these um process groups. So the second part of PMBOK, which is called the standard for project management, is actually, I have just covered it all, except for the details of each process, which will anyways be covered while I'm doing the knowledge area chapters. So each knowledge area chapter will take care of each one of the processes, and we will discuss each one of the process in detail there. So this is a brief about the project information. How does it occur? The project, what work performance data, what is work performance information, what is work performance report. I think I have told you so many times that you now remember it. So how does this occur? Uh, from project execution, that is the direct and managed project work, the work performance data is generated, and all the controlling processes will receive the data, and they will compare it with the work project management plan, and they will generate the work performance information, which is sent to overall project control, which is what? Monitor and control project work. That will consolidate into a work performance report. Now, what actions can be taken on work performance report? Number one, if there is a change request required, and change request will only be required when there is a change in the baseline. If there is a change request required, the change control process will be invoked, change request will be moved, and it will be moved to perform integrated change control. And as a result of perform integrated change control approval, the project management plan will be amended, and project documents will also be amended, and it will be sent back to project execution. The approved change request is sent back to project execution, and it is communicated to the concerned teams and the stakeholders. The second scenario is there is no change required in any of the baselines, scope, time, and cost. In that case, there is no need for change control. Any changes in human resource or anything else can be directly done by project manager on his own authority in the project management plan or project document, and can be communicated to the concerned team members or the stakeholders. Third case is this work performance report does not change any project management plan, does not change any work performance project documents. So simply there is something to be communicated to the people, the project members and project team. For example, any precautions, any preventive measures, any corrective measures. So they are not to be recorded anywhere, just to be communicated, so they can be communicated. So this concludes my today's lecture. So this includes everything about the process group. As I said, the standard for project management has been completed today. Now we will be going back to our knowledge areas, and from tomorrow onwards, we will be dealing with each knowledge area one by one. There are 10 knowledge areas. They will take some 1 day almost each, but some knowledge areas may take more than that. So probably we will be able to easily cover the scheduled time. Any questions? Please raise hand. Any comments? Okay. Just give me some feedback. How is it going? Am I fast? Am I understandable? Just give me some feedback. Thinking I'm dealing with dead people. Yes, Azim. Ji, Azim bhai.
Sir, you have said that change request will be initiated when there is a change in baseline of this scope, time, and cost.
Exactly.
So it means you are saying that only these three things will initiate change if there is a change in these baselines. Other, for example, if we find some problem with quality, how to deal with that? That will not be through change request.
Okay. Yes, of course. You see, if there is something wrong in quality which is impacting the scope, time, and cost, change request will have to be there. That is true for any knowledge area. If there is a change in resource and you think it will impact the scope, time, or cost, there is a change request required. But if there is no impact on scope, time, and cost, such like change can be done by project manager himself. That is, he is allowed to do that.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Wonderful. Ji, there was another hand up. I don't know who was he. शायद साहब आप थे या कौन था? जी शायद साहब. Anything from you, शायद साहब? Anyone else? Okay, fine. So if there are no more questions, I would like to conclude today's session. I am really happy by your feedback so far. I'm sure that you are receiving a lot of information and you are doing it as well, and that is good. And tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards, this information which I have taught you in last 2 days, today and yesterday, this is going to be instrumental. Just remember these things. Trust me, the remaining 10 chapters are going to be piece of cake if you remember these things. So let's call it a day, and we will meet same time tomorrow. And there is a comment. Let me read that. Okay, Ambreen came late and she says, yeah, she was not there. Okay. And who else is there? Okay, fine. I think there are no more comments. Thank you very much and please take care. Khuda Hafiz.